The European Commission has now adopted technical standards for their digital identity wallets for the rest of the EU, and if you want to find out what that means, then watch the rest of this video. Welcome to the AlterNate Vantage. My name is Nate. This is where I provide a different perspective on finances, news, and generational wealth. If you like this kind of content, then don't forget to like and subscribe. All right, back to the video. So here's what's going on here. The European Commission has adopted the technical standards for what they are calling the EID, which they are saying will help member states of the EU build their own wallets and release them by the end of 2026. What's important to note here is that the digital ID, what they're calling the EID, is a component to a system. It's not the system itself. The system is the wallet. The wallet, which they are transitioning into, is essentially a digital means of banking, digital means of finance, digital everything. In other terms, it's a CBDC. That's what these wallets are for. The digital ID is just a component of that. So if they're wanting to launch their wallets by 2026, that just tells you how quickly they're wanting to roll out this technology to the retail side. Interestingly enough, this sounds a lot like Project Rosalind as well as Project Icebreaker, which was put on by the BIS, and both of these are platforms that have been exploring the use case of retail central bank digital currencies. And if you don't know what the BIS is, it's the Bank of International Settlements, the bank of banks, so to speak, and the EU has heavily been involved in this process. So if you don't think the CBDCs are coming down the pipeline, well, they're coming down the pipeline. Going back to the article, here's a couple of the notes they shared. They said setting uniform standards and specifications will allow each member state to develop wallets in a way that is interoperable and acceptable across the EU. The term interoperable has been in almost every single major central bank digital currency project, headline, technical performance, everything. Even in, JP Morgan and Chase, they have a central bank digital currency that they're working on through Project Connexes. I've talked about it on the channel before. If you want to look at it, go check out the other video. But the term interoperable is important because it's going to be less about the individual currencies, such as euros, dollars, wands, and so on and so forth. It's going to be less about the currency and more about the system. And what we need to pay attention to is who's controlling that system and what it means for retail consumers just like us. They go on to say, adding in a little note that, hey, this is totally safe for everybody. They say no tracking or profiling will be included in the design of the wallets, and a built-in privacy dashboard will give users complete transparency on how the information has been shared. Okay, all I'm going to say is that this is a ruse. And this is how I know it's a ruse. The technology that they're using for these wallets is distributed ledger technology. And if you're familiar with that, it's very similar to how blockchain technology operates. So essentially, everyone communicating on the platform to a certain degree is going to have visibility on what everyone else is doing. It's kind of like Bitcoin or Ethereum. It's a public blockchain. Everyone can see the transactions that are taking place between each wallet. And even in the Bitcoin space, people assume, oh, if you have a Bitcoin wallet, then you have anonymity. But it's already been proven several times that you don't have complete anonymity. And just based on a couple of routine transactions, you can actually dial in exactly who that wallet belongs to with, I would say, a tremendous amount of effort, but in the grand scheme of things, not a lot of data. So yes, even though that the ability to track and the ability to profile won't be put on the platform itself, doesn't mean that third parties won't have the ability to both track and profile what that wallet is doing, who the wallet belongs to, and all the other data associated with it. So sure, you might have some transparency on how the information has been shared, what you have directed, but what you don't have transparency on is who has been able to collect that information just by nature of your transactions. Next, the article says, the wallets will enable users to identify themselves online and offline, and will be available to any EU citizen, resident, or business in the EU, and thank goodness, it'll be optional. I love it when they say things like this because the term optional is very loose. Hey, we're not going to force anybody to get an EID and be part of these wallets. No, we're not going to force you, all right? But it's kind of like, not everyone has a car, but for most, American families, you have to have a car or your job possibilities are very limited. Not everyone has a bank account, but if you don't have a bank account, your payment options, your ability to get access to cash, your ability to transact in stores, your ability to send money to other people, extremely limited, which is why most people have a bank account. So you have these terms like optional, sure, but you have to keep in mind that the inconvenience rating will continue to go up and up and up and up and up for those of us who do not wish to participate in a system like this. It's kind of like Apple. It's essentially been proven that they release updates which intentionally slow down their older generation phones, so that way people who have them will be encouraged to upgrade to the new one. It's optional, you don't have to upgrade to the new one, but the inconvenience factor, pretty high. So here's a few examples of how the wallets can be used. They said it's opening a bank account, proving one's age, renewing medical prescriptions, renting a car, or displaying their flight tickets. Something that's a little bit, I guess, concerning to me is that all those elements that they just named, travel, medical care, banking, is like the core of everything everyone does in their lives. And yes, they did say right now it'll be optional, but in the future, what if it's not optional? Are you saying we won't have the opportunity to conduct in banking? We won't have the opportunity to travel freely? We won't have the opportunity to renew medical prescriptions? Very interesting. And last but not least, if you think, for example, like, oh, this would never happen, it's already happening. And they go on to say that some EU countries already have their own national digital ID systems. For example, Belgium has a mandatory ID card that has a mobile app equivalent and is used to pay taxes, carry out bank transfers, or request key documents from local authorities. Notice the term mandatory. So all these changes are happening very, very quickly. We are watching the system be created in front of us, or I should say be rolled out in front of our eyes today, of the direction central bank digital currencies are going. This is also the equivalent of the quantum financial system, if you've heard it in that regard too. And if you want to stay ahead of this information, to be aware of it, and if you want to know what to do about it, then please subscribe to the channel, like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who you think needs to be aware of this information. And with that, I will catch you in the next one.